Emily with Miss Anita's Crafts, and today's craft is going to be a recycled craft using tin cans that are all different sizes. And so I have them right now, they're just stacked inside each other right now, so you can kind of see the sizes that you need to do the craft that we're going to do. The craft is going to be a tin can wind chime, and they sound really cool when they clang around. And the idea is you need to have 3 or 4 different size tin cans. Now the height doesn't necessarily matter. What matters here is the width, because they need to be able to go inside each other and fit nicely just inside each other like little Russian nesting dolls. So I'll take these out and show you what sizes I have. Now these have already been painted 2 coats of white. I did this yesterday so they could be nice and dry, because when you're going to paint on cans you kind of want to have a base coat on there, and you want that to be dry so it's not sticky or tacky when you go to paint on it with whatever colors you're going to put on it. So these have already been coated, a double coat of white matte paint, and that was done yesterday. So I've got them kind of in the order that they're going to stack. So this one's going to be an American flag, so it's going to have the blue on the top with stars, and I'll show you how we're going to get the star look on there. We're going to actually make our own stamp, our own sort of a stencil to do that. And then for the bottom 3 that are going to hang, because they hang upside down, these are going to be the stripes. So each one of these will have red and white stripes. Of course, the white part we'll just leave it white, and for the red we'll go and use a wide brush and paint the red on there. So I've got the 3 different sizes for that, and I've also gone and taken a hand drill and drilled a hole in the tops of all of them. I didn't do it this way, I'm just holding it this way to show you that it goes all the way through. But when I went to drill the hole, I would just put the can upside down like this, and I like to use a little hand drill because they're not noisy and they're a little less scary. But something like this is the one I use, and I just have kind of a medium bit in there, and kind of hold it in place. It does make a terrible sound when it finally does go through the tin can, so just be ready to cover your ears when that happens if you have sensitive ears. And also just be ready to kind of sweep away the little debris, the little pieces of sharp metal shards that come out of that. So you don't want to have those laying around, because it looks shiny and pretty like glitter, but it will cut you. So I have that done in all of them. So I will kind of set them up this way, because this is actually the way that they'll be painted and hanging. So I'll just hold them the way that they'll look best, so I know what I'm doing on them. My palette set up here, I've got a nice dark blue, I've got a lighter blue in case I want to mix it up, because I'm not real sure what that's going to look like once I get it on the can. Kind of want to wait and see, and then I might need to mix the 2 together, get the shade that I want. And then I just have a regular red, and these are all, the blue is Americana brand, and the red is Apple Barrel. That's always a good one to use, just regular Apple Barrel paint that you can get at Walmart, and it's pretty cheap, $2.50 for the 8-ounce bottle, so I like buying that. But Americana is also, if you feel like splurging a little bit, this is a really good paint that does a nice coat and just a nice solid look. So that's always a good one to use as well. Got a big thick brush, try to use like a 1-inch brush with this, so that way it cuts back on the brush strokes that you see, because if you use a tiny brush you're going to be seeing where you made all those little tiny strokes on there, but if you're using a wider brush it covers more surface, and so it'll come out a little bit smoother. I've also got a cup of water to switch colors. You want to wash really good in between, okay, and also a rag to dry off really well when we do need to switch colors. I'm going to start painting on the biggest one, because if I want to do another coat on the blue, which I have a feeling I will, I want to make sure it's dry. So I start on this one, work my way down to the smallest one, and then if I need to, once I get back to this, chances are it'll be nice and dry and ready for another coat. I'm really liking the way that blue looks on there. I might not need to use the other one, so I'll just probably do a couple coats of this nice dark Americana blue. And you can also put your hand up inside the can while you're painting like this, so that way you get less paint on your skin. I'm going to start on the striped cans now, and these are the smaller ones that are going to go underneath the blue one with the stars, and eventually we'll get to those stars. But the cool thing about painting on a can when you're doing something like stripes is you don't really need to mark them off with tape, because they've got the ridges, so you can kind of tell when you're painting straight. This one's definitely going to need more than 1 coat. Going back now to do that second coat on the red, which it really needed. So most of the painting is done and most of the paint is dry. I had to help it along a little bit with the paint dryer. So now that the rest of that is sitting and cooling off so it's no longer tacky, I got a long piece of twine because you have to string these up, and this part can be a little tricky, so you want to watch carefully and see what I do. But I have a long piece of twine. I didn't measure it. It's probably over a yard for sure. And I have some wooden beads because they have a nice big hole, so they're able to go onto the twine. And I just use twine because I like the look of it, and it's sturdy, but you could easily use yarn. All right, do a double knot here to tie this bead on the very end. Now this one's going to be decorative, so we'll take the other end and we'll put on a bead that we don't really care about, whatever it looks like. We just need something because the rest of our beads are not going to show. They're just going to be inside. So we'll make this one. You have to be a little careful about your knot placement because we're going to be making a knot where we want the cans to hang. So I want this little bead to hang out the bottom of our bottom can. So the bead is going to be up inside, and we'll double knot around it. Now it's the part where you might need help from something like this. So I've got this old-fashioned needle threader, and if you put that wire part, okay, inside the hole, this can help you. If you can see it in there, which you can't really see on film, but if I put the end of the string through the eye of this needle threader and pull, it just helps it along, and it helps it come right out that hole. If you wanted it to be a little easier, you'd probably have to drill a bigger hole, but I didn't want to do anything too crazy and scary and have a big rigid hole at the top there, so I just went with the smaller one. So this is going to be the very bottom, and this is going to hang out the bottom. So we just have that for show, a little something hanging there. Now we know our next one is a shorter can, so we kind of want to make our bead with this where the can is going to land somewhere like right here, so that way when it clangs, it can touch the other can. You don't want to do this until they're totally dry because you'll pull up paint when you do that. So we want to kind of have it at this height. So we'll figure out where that's going to be. We'll tie a bead on there, and you might need to adjust it as you go. But this one I'm probably going to put right about, this is where you just need to have an eye for it, probably right about there. Okay, double knot it on there, and we'll do the same process all the way up. The trick is just not putting the cans too far away from each other, because if they're too far away, then they're just going to hover and just sort of move around above the next can below it instead of clang into it, which is what you want it to do if it's going to be a wind chime. I'll just keep going through and doing all of these until we get to the very last one. So the last thing I'm going to do here to string it up and just to finish it off is I just put a bead here on the top, okay? And then I'm going to just make a loop so it has something to hang. And I don't want it to be a tiny loop because I want to be able to grab it easily. Okay, and I'm going to keep my knot just by holding it down. Keep it right up close to the bead like that. That way the bead won't come off, okay? And it'll kind of hold everything in place. And then we can trim the tail off. The next thing we said we were going to do is make the stars. And we're going to make our own stencil, our own stamp. So we'll just set that aside. And then I'll show you how I plan to do that. Have a regular kitchen sponge. It's just a dollar store, a cheapy one, and it's the foamy kind, but you could use any kind. I just prefer it to be the thinner one because it's a little hard to cut through the real big fat sponges. So first I'm just going to pull off this abrasive side here, which you could still use for something to scrub, you know. And it pulls off pretty easy. Well, the dollar store ones do anyways. I don't know about the other name brands. All right. So then I have just the soft part of the sponge, and I have a cookie cutter. That's a star shape that's the right size that I want. So I'm going to lay it down here and try to save as much of the sponge as I can. Okay, and I'm just going to trace around it with a pen. Kind of have to go a few times because it's a little weird to draw on a sponge. There it is. And then using really good scissors, we'll find out if these are good. Now that you don't have that green side on there, just go and cut your star out. And then I would just save this other little chunk of sponge because you could definitely do something else with that. Let's get that out of the way and bring in our paint palette where I have some white paint, nice thick white paint right in the middle. Okay, and I will just kind of dab it generously on the star. Then, wherever you're going to want a star, find a spot, set it down carefully, don't let it roll, don't let it smear. It's supposed to look a little rough, so expect it to have some blotches and spots, and maybe it doesn't fill in completely. Okay, you might want to have somebody hold the can still for you, but make sure you get all the corners because this part can be tricky since the can is round. You have to go around the whole thing. And then lift up very carefully and you'll have your stars. You might have enough paint to do another one, so we'll go ahead and do this right here. It probably has enough to stamp it, but you might want to press a little bit harder this time because you're using it again. And we'll just go around, space them out, maybe a few inches apart. We have a little space around them. That one's cool. Yeah. I'll do one up on this side here. Actually, to reveal it, I thought it'd be way better to just kind of show how, if it's hanging, how the different little segments kind of just fall into place. And I think it'd be cool to put a little jingle bell or something at the end here. But the sound this thing makes is really, really cool. You can hear the little... I'll let you listen to it. And the shape of it is super cool also. You could hang it from a tree branch. It looks really good against the green, so when you have it outside, it's really awesome. And the crazy thing about this is these cans are all free. Obviously, I've seen cans, fake cans for sale at Michael's for $4, and these are totally free. So just save your cans and you can recycle them yourself by making a really cool wind chime. This thing is really awesome, and it's super compact, so when you need to take it down, you know, if there's a storm, it just folds up all inside itself. So it's really awesome.